Militarism, alliances, imperialism, nationalism have been the main root causes of World War I in 1914. More or less 1 century after this terrible war, there are a lot of conflicts all over the world due to similar root causes. We will now analyze one of these conflicts, trying to demonstrate that imperialism and nationalism are one of the major issues in the war between Israel and Palestine. According to the Dictionary of Human Geography from 2009, imperialism is a non-equal human and territorial relationship, usually in the form of an empire, based on the idea of superiority and practices of dominance, and involving the extension of authority and control of one state or people over another. During the 19th century, Europe expanded its territory throughout colonies in Africa, in Asia, and in America. In 1900, more than 90% of the African territories were under control of European countries. Control means that the colonizer imposed their own cultures, policies, and rules without any considerations for local cultures and native people. In the same year, a lot of European countries consider that the imperialism is a key factor to be one of the most important countries in the world. Controlling a lot of people, extending the borders, reaching low-cost materials market and controlling the price of materials, enforcing their cultures, selling their own products. At the end of the 19th century, Germany is a very small empire comparatively to other European countries like UK or France and cannot be a major country. Considering this status as a threat and a risk in terms of security, Germany defined a strategy of conquest in Europe to reach a critical size starting by a war with France in 1870 and ending by a disastrous World War I. Just after World War II, the United Nations decided to split a British protectorate area in two states, Palestine and Israel. This decision generated a lot of tension in this Middle East area, a lot of war between Israel and other countries, and a big instability in this region since 1948. For Israel, the current status quo is not acceptable. Palestine is a terrorist area, menacing the security of Israel. Current borders of Palestine are not acceptable. Israel cannot accept to depend on other countries in terms of water, and Jerusalem cannot be outside of Israel. Considering this status as a threat and a risk in terms of security, Israel is applying a colonization strategy imposing Israeli people in Palestine since 1967 with a very important protection of Israel army. Refusing to split Jerusalem, refusing to recognize the borders with Palestine, isolating Palestine, humiliating Palestinian people, occupying illegally some strategic area, for example, to control the water. I do not think that this strategy is sustainable. Several countries around Israel are building a strong military arsenal, including nuclear capabilities. I do not know if a country like Iran or Egypt will decide to stop the Israeli imperialist strategy during the coming years, helping the Muslim brothers in Palestine, but it is at least a big war risk at a regional level and maybe at a worldwide level. Nationalism is a trust, principle, or political ideology involving an individual person and a nation. Nationalism involves national identity, which involves personal behavior that supports a nation's decisions and action, rational or not. Nationalism could be based on past historic conquest, on a religion, on a collective humiliation. The aid of other nations or communities is a nationalist peer. For example, the 19th German nationalism was focused on German identity based upon the historical crusading, Teutonic order and on all borders. In France, the explosion of the nationalism was based on a strong hate of German people after the 1870 war. A majority of French people wanted a revenge to recover the lost areas. Alsace and Lorraine. The peak of this nationalism was reached in 1914. A majority of German and French people wanted to demonstrate the superiority dominating inferior people. More than 25% of French people between 18 and 27 years passed away during this war. In the conflict between Palestine and Israel, we can also consider that two nationalisms were confronted. One is based on history and was founded in the 19th century by Jewish people in Europe, the Zionism. The idea of the Zionism is very simple, reconstituting a Jewish nationalist state in Palestine for Jewish. Israel is the first step of this nationalist strategy. The Palestinian nationalism is based on the Israeli hate. They do not accept to share their land with Jewish. The opposition of these two nationalisms generates a lot of conflicts between Israeli and Palestinian. Terrorism attack coming from rabid Palestinian, military brutality and humiliation coming from Israel. Since 1990, 10,000 people passed away during this conflict. If this nationalism anti-Israel continues to grow in several countries in Middle East, how many people will pass away in case of regional war? In France, a dictum says, "History repeats itself." In this conflict between Israel and Palestine, we have similar components than during the conflict between Germany and France. I hope that the consequences of this conflict will not be the same. More than 9 million of military people passed away during World War I, and more than 10 million of civilians people died. Militarism and alliances are the other pillars of this conflict between Israel and Palestine. But it is another chapter.